Everybody, welcome to another installment of Show to View with Mike G, the show of life, the show traveling, the show of being a punk looking to get laid. I just turned 37 this weekend, and obviously every year as we have another birthday, making it yet a year closer to perhaps the end, not to be morbid, but we do reflect and we think about life, and have we done all the things that we wanted to do? Have we said all of the things that we've needed to say? And this first chat, the first of two at two separate occasions with Mr. Tomas Estes, is an amazing conversation, an amazing deep dive into Tomas as a person, the spiritual entity himself, the intellectual being, and really a Renaissance man, a man of the world and a man of this universe. Don't want to oversell it. It was a great chat this first time around. Tomas and Carlos Camarena were in town talking about Tequila Ocho, and ultimately this chapter, this first chat, is a discussion, a foray into Tomas's departure from the hospitality industry and diving into Tequila Ocho full time. So I hope you guys enjoy this first of two chats with Tomas Estes.
Been in hospitality for 40 years, since 1976.
That's amazing.
I went into hospitality having been a dishwasher, kitchen commie, and a busboy, and that was it.
Yeah.
I ventured into being in the restaurant business as a means to be able to live in Amsterdam, Holland.
Was that was the ultimate goal, is to live in Amsterdam?
The whole goal was to live in Amsterdam, and I needed a way to support myself.
To fund it, right? Yeah.
To fund it, to live.
What was in Amsterdam?
Pardon me?
What was in Amsterdam that drew you there? Was it the
Amsterdam? So I, out of university, I went into teaching.
Oh, really?
I was a high school teacher.
What subject?
English, writing.
Yeah.
And a wrestling coach, because I was a intercollegiate wrestler.
Really?
For 4 years.
Oh, that's crazy.
And 2 years in high school myself.
Mm-hmm.
So after having been a teacher for 7 years, and I went into teaching to give back.
Yeah.
I didn't want to join the American dream of going into business and making lots of money and
so what you weren't
joining
thinking,
the rat race.
Yeah, like it wasn't about you. You said, like you said, it's your expert. You want to give back to the community and those kinds of things rather than kind of sit on your pile of cash. And
that's the thing. And so I visited Amsterdam in 1970, and I fell in love with it. And I thought, here's a place where I can really learn a lot about myself.
Yeah.
Somewhere along the line, I took the point of view or the philosophy that if there was anything worthwhile in life, and sometimes life seems like a dirty trick on us.
Yeah, it does.
Especially
turns, right?
Especially when we have loved ones that get ill and die. So it's the whole thing of, as soon as we're born, we know we're going to die. And how do we deal with that?
How do we acknowledge it?
How do we turn the trick around and live our lives the way that says doesn't matter if we die. We're gonna enjoy the time, or we're gonna make the most of the time.
Yeah.
So along the way, I found this meaning in life that was, okay, I'm going to do the most with myself that I can.
Learn, travel, just imbibe with culture, I guess. Right?
Be challenged.
Yeah.
And find out as much as I can about who I am and what I can be. Mm-hmm. So moving to Holland was a giant challenge. It was new language, new culture, new life in total.
And so you said this was 70 you first visited, but then 78 is when you started teaching there?
By 76,
okay.
I had raised $15,000. I had a small treasury.
Yeah.
And I went with my then former wife and my 9-year-old son to Holland, and
that's amazing.
Found a place that I could afford on the corner of the red light district, so an inexpensive part of town. Opened up this little bar and restaurant because nobody was offering Mexican food and drink and ambience in anywhere in Europe.
Right.
And after 3 months, it was a giant success.
That's amazing.
Thank God. And then I went on to open. So that was 1976. I opened in London in 1982.
Wow. Okay.
In Paris in 84. In Cologne, Germany in 86. In Milan, Italy in 88.
Wow.
And then I made multiple places. I made a bar, the La Perla bar in 1988 in Paris.
Well, so you're like you're so decorated, right? You have all these different bars, restaurants, and all these kinds of things. But so I wonder, because it seems like going from being an English teacher, and I understand the giving back part and kind of creating a community, because food does that. Food and drink are kind of the last vestige of art, if you think about it.
Well said.
Because music, and I've said this before, but music, you can get it how you want it whenever you want it. Films, same thing. Now, there's really no good substitute for sitting in a big, nice theater watching 35mm print. There's no substitute for that. But you can try on your little handheld device. But food and drink, that's it. That's all that's left. You have to be there, and it binds us together.
Food, drink, and let's call it service, but it's more hospitality.
Right.
Excuse me, Mike, but I learned really early on that people, the more alienating our environment is, and it is, and alienating and a lot of fear around, that people value being cared for.
Yeah.
And that's what hospitality is.
Belonging, right?
We have the kitchen of a restaurant is the heart of the place, but it's the people that are there that are giving our guests the attention, the love.
Yeah. That's interesting. I never thought about it from an alienation perspective. So you're out there in the world, right, outside the doors of this wonderfully caring and compassionate place. You're out there going through the rat race, like you say. And when you mean alienation, do you mean that people they're not polite, they are in disagreement, in opposition to you all the time? Is that what you mean, or is that...
Mike, I really appreciate how inquisitive your mind is in looking into this.
Sure.
I would say we live in a progressively developing age of alienation.
Okay.
And I think it has to do with commercialization. I think it has to do with mass-mindedness. I think it has to do with mass consumption, mass creation of fear.
Yeah.
It's like what was it? Big Brother was in
1984.
Brave New World.
Oh, right. Well, yeah.
And I think this, that's a whole nother story.
Sure.
But
you think things are becoming that commoditized and that rounded and that conformed?
I do. Yeah. And I think the larger we have a globalized world, the more alienating it is. I think the family is breaking down.
Sure. Oh, that's very true.
I mean, kids just don't eat at the dinner table with their parents like they used to.
You had to. My mom would make us come, but
exactly.
I appreciate that.
I made my kids, but their friends, I said to my kids, yeah, we're going to eat together. Oh, God, Dad. Why? I said, look,
because
don't your friends do this? And they said, no. I said, none of them? No.
Really?
So I find that it's through electronic media.
Yeah.
It's all distancing. It's texting instead of talking.
Yeah. You know what's interesting? So, and this is kind of, the thing that I love about doing these interviews, I never know where they're going to go, and they become academic. At times, they become product based. But this is something I've been thinking about a long time. Is that why is vinyl coming back? Right. So vinyl is the only increase in any of the segments for music is in vinyl. Okay. All right, cool. Well, what's that mean? Well, I think what's happening, to your point of alienation, that's very, very true. But I think there's actually a positive side to that, in that everybody is always trying to force feed stuff down my throat via banners, web ads, commercials, everything. Now I need to connect with art in my own personalized way. So in a sense, I think it's going to spawn a series of very, very free-minded, independent thinkers, because they're saying, I don't want you to force feed this stuff to me. In a way, it's going to cause this counter revolution where this mass marketing and these products aren't going to work because people are going to be too jaded about it, and they should be. So maybe it's creating isolationism, which I think it is, but maybe it's also creating people that are ready to connect and ready to have honest moments.
Mike, I really appreciate that. And to me, what you just said is your way, perhaps your way,
yeah.
And I think I adopt this way of fighting back against, again, what I called this dirty trick of life. So as our culture develops in this alienating way, or ways, we can choose the way that we want to fit in, not fit in, rebel against it. And again, you're choosing the vinyl in your own way to adapt,
right, or revolt even.
Or revolt.
Yeah.
And so, again, back to the way that the world is going, the more that things are commoditized.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's a word, but I've used that word.
Mass-produced, the more you can find your way to create a soul spirit that nobody else has done, the way that I can choose to make a product with heart and soul in it, in a world that is becoming more and more devoid of that, soulless, as a general rule.
Absolutely.
So it's like the slow food movement coming out of Italy, or emanating first of all out of Italy. This is a wonderful movement that is a reaction against fast food, mass production, mass thinking.
Slowing it down, changing the tempo, reclaiming a piece of
appreciating.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. All of that. Well,
like this coffee you have brought.
Houndstooth,
it's actually a perfect, this coffee that I'm drinking from Houndstooth. Yeah. It's got an extra flavor to it.
Yeah.
It's got an extra bit of soul and heart to it.
It really does.
And does that make a difference? To me, it does.
Yeah, it tastes different.
To me,
tastes deeper.
It
tastes
does.
More passionate.
Uh-huh.
That's something you always want to taste when you sip something. So I'm trying to, this is the thing. Where did you start? You're right now, the moment I'm catching you, and much like sipping a tequila that changes in the bottle and every single moment is unique in a snapshot, you're a different person now. Where did you grow up? Where were you born? What's that about?
I was born in 1945, so I was a what do they call that? The baby boomer.
The baby boomers, yeah.
I mean, one of millions and millions. And I grew up in a suburb of Los Angeles, in the East Side.
East Side.
In a track house. So I was one. I felt myself one of so many that I felt gray. Mm-hmm. And I thought, who am I? Where do I find my own place? And it was important to me to think that I had my own identity. I was looking for it as a kid.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's amazing. So how young do you think you recall thinking?
Probably in early grade school.
Yeah, like what is my purpose? Where is my place? Is that kind of what you're going?
What's my identity?
Yeah, this
how do I fit in
here? Dilemma already at a very young age. Were your parents very philosophical and inquisitive, or were they more by the book? Like,
my mom, God bless her, was a very troubled soul out of Iowa, so Midwest, small town. My father was a small businessman from Missouri, so again, Midwest. Born on a farm. My grandmother's born on a farm. Very common, down-to-earth people. My father was a very successful small entrepreneur.
What industry?
He was in real estate, insurance, and later started some banks down in San Diego County.
Yeah.
So he was a fantastic model for me, and he was very supportive.
Yeah.
If the police brought me home, which they did, if I got thrown in jail, which I did, he came and got me and supported me, and was a very loving, successful man in my eyes.
And I imagine, because my father as well, like he was entrepreneurial. He's been in this industry, for the hospitality industry, for a long time, and his dedication to his work, that's what stabilized me after I went through that really, really kind of tumultuous creative period. Now, my mom's San Franciscan hippie and stuff like that, but still kind of like the L7 of hippies, really, because she's kind of square, even low level. But do you think that you're trying to find your identity and perhaps your place in all of this, that is where you were doing? I mean, you talk about getting arrested. You talking loitering? You talking drinking? It's like common stuff.
Mostly drinking and acting out.
Yeah.
Rebelling.
The James Dean times we talking? Or before that?
Oh, slightly after.
Okay.
So it was in the early 60s.
Yeah, all right.
The time of the Cuban Revolution and the early times of long hair, and again, finding one's own expression.
If there was an ideology when you're talking about in your teens, was there a fashion sense or a movement that you felt aligned to at that point?
Probably it was the movement of trying to get laid.
That's always a movement, even to this day.
And so what was that movement? It was to act like a badass.
Were you long hair, short hair, leather jackets, these kinds of things? Or?
Not the leather jacket, not that James Dean, but it was that sort of juvenile delinquent.
Yeah. Brando from The Wild Ones, maybe?
Well,
that's still leather, isn't it?
It was at the end of the Beat era, the Jack Kerouac, and the beginning of the hippies. It was that era that Neil Cassidy bridged.
Interesting.
Cassidy was who was he? He was one of the main characters in On the Road.
Oh, okay.
And then later was written about by Tom Wolfe in the book Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test.
Really? Okay.
He was the guy that drove the bus, Ken Kesey's bus.
Yeah.
So it was
Peter Fonda, I'm thinking, for some reason. I kind of think of, but he was kind of hippie-ish, right? Yeah.
Peter Fonda was the guy that was in Dennis Hopper's movie.
Easy Rider.
Easy Rider.
But a lot of those.
So I had my motorcycle. Perhaps you've seen the picture in my book.
Oh no, I love to see it.
You just look back. You'll there's a picture of me circa 1964.
Yeah.
On my stripped down Triumph Bonneville.
That's
so
amazing.
The Triumph Bonneville has this image of, as you've said, Marlon Brando, Warren Beatty, Steve McQueen.
Yeah.
It's this rebellious Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
They've all had their Triumphs, motorcycles. So it was this thing of trying to act badass, dangerous.
Right.
Trying to act dangerous and attractive to the opposite sex by street fighting, having been in jail.
Yeah.
Growing up in the Mexican community, you weren't accepted by certain friends that were Mexican unless you'd been in jail.
Interesting.
Have you ever heard of the Los Lobos?
The band?
The band.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So they grew up in areas close to me and then later lived in the same community, Whittier.
Really?
And I remember meeting them and saying hello and, hey, yeah, we're from the same place. And as soon as I told, we talked about our lives and they learned I had been in jail a few times.
It all opened everything up, didn't it?
Oh, yeah. Then I was a trusted person.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Hello there, you guys. Hello, David and Louis.
So now I'm
Conrad.
starting to piece it together a little bit. So I love this Steve McQueen thing, this being a rebel, this trying to get laid thing. It makes a lot of sense. I think we all go through those phases.
and you're what would be the word? You're part of the Hispanic culture because that's where you're living, right? So I imagine at some point you get introduced to the food, maybe happenstance or as a side note, but you're around it, right? Culturally, were you feeling those kinds of influences?
Absolutely. And so in grade school, about a third of the kids were Mexicans or Mexican Americans. And I remember going to Bobby Amasquito's house and his mom making flour tortillas there at home and beans and having burritos with him. And it was early on that I could see the Mexican kids had their identity.
Really?
Now, in the United States, in those days, and I'm sad to say, still today, Mexicans are stigmatized.
Oh, absolutely.
They are looked down upon. They are feared because of their life force, their energy, their connection to being full of joy and sorrows. But that scares a lot of people.
Yeah.
And whenever there is a group that is
marginalized? Is that maybe?
That is marginalized? That whenever there's a group that is made into the working class.
I see. Okay.
I don't know what that's called.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I know what you mean. Definitely.
Then, if as Walt Whitman would say, if I enslave another, I'm enslaving myself.
Sure.
So within this duality of boss and slave,
right.
It creates a weird dynamic and a weird conundrum.
Yeah, you've got to roll either way, right?
And so I saw the Mexican subculture as having this unique identity aside from the Anglo community.
Right.
And that attracted me.
Because you were still probably trying to find that identity.
I was trying to find my own.
Yeah.
And in their outsider status, I found a certain freedom. Mm-hmm. Instead of being like everybody else and in a way enslaved by that, I wanted to step out of that. I wanted to be my own person. I wanted to make my own decisions. And that was following the beat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tradition.
Right.
It was following the hippie tradition. And I don't know where that is now.
I don't either, but it's different. I mean, it's become technological now, but you still can leverage technology in a good way, and you can share things. And the cool thing is that it's a flat space now, right?
Well said.
You know, access is no longer an issue. Whether you talk about music, we're having an interview that thousands of people can hear at any time that they want. You know, and it's an amazing thought. And we're just two dudes sitting talking, but there's this flatness to it, and I love that accessibility. That's one of the perks of the world becoming globalized.
Yes.
You know, also
I totally agree.
You know, a disadvantage as well. Well, so okay, this makes sense. So you're getting this, you're in a sense empathizing and also identifying with the Mexican culture. When did you move out of that area?
I think that whole thing of empathizing, is that how we say it?
Yeah, is that fair?
Yeah. I think that is something that has really more and more gotten a hold of me. Again, this transcendental idea,
Whitman again,
which Whitman expresses to me so well, that we are all actually one family, but even larger than that, we are all one soul.
Yeah. Even with nature and animals as well, I feel
absolutely.
I feel that way.
Yes,
and that's a side discussion. But the way that people somehow distance themselves from nature as if somehow they're a different species, although we're made of the same stuff.
Yes,
you know, it's very interesting that we'd rather not find things in common. We'd rather find points of difference, which doesn't make any sense to me.
No, me neither. You know? It seems so counterproductive. Yeah. It seems so harmful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Potentially harmful, at least.
It's okay. So we got the English teacher piece. We've got the massive impact to the world of hospitality and restaurants. So there are some college years there. I imagine for how studious, to me anyway, you seem, that would have been something you wanted to pursue.
This had to do with the wrestling.
Yeah.
So I had been a high school wrestler for 2 years. I followed my wrestling into college.
Yeah.
Also because I didn't know what else to do.
Sure.
And then
Did you get a scholarship then for wrestling?
No. Along the way, the Vietnam War came. Mm-hmm. And then with my mindset, with my kind of idea of not wanting to be a part of this big organization called society, I certainly didn't want to be a part of the military service.
Right.
And when the Vietnam War showed its face, I really didn't want to be a part of that. So it was safer to remain in school.
I see. Okay. And be drafted, I guess, right?
Than to be drafted.
Yeah.
So that was my academic side.
Interesting.
And then once again, as I got towards the end of my eligibility with wrestling, intercollegiate wrestling, I thought, what am I going to do with my college education? And I could see that one of the things that attracted me and had value for me was to give back to the society, and that looked like a good opportunity to be a wrestling coach and a high school teacher.
Interesting. Okay. So was English a field of study that was of particular interest, or you kind of fell into it because it was part of the curriculum?
It was more part of the curriculum. In fact, English was my minor. My major was, I put together social sciences.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And they used to call that liberal arts.
Liberal arts, yeah.
You've heard of that?
Oh, sure, yeah.
So I just put together whatever I had done out of my interests, and that was that was my degree.
Yeah, interesting. Did you? So it's a good way to kind of take shelter, in a sense, or some kind of insulation against being drafted. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So you're doing the wrestling piece. You're studying larger other liberal arts, as you say. And so when when did you finally finish college? What year would we be talking then?
I believe it was, I graduated high school in 1964, and the next 5 years, 64, 68.
Okay.
And so then
Where did you go to school, by the way, in college?
I went, first of all, 2 years to Fullerton Junior College, a 2-year school, and then later to what we called then Long Beach State, which I think is now called University of California at Long Beach.
Oh, interesting. Okay. That's amazing. So 68, man, this is an amazing year when you talk about music and art and all of that.
Well, everything was in this tumulting state of change.
Yeah.
Anybody that was earlier non-possessed, anybody that was outside of the privileged class, which was basically Anglo males.
Yeah.
So women's rights started coming up. It was the sexual revolution. Mexican rights started happening. Black or African American or whatever we want to call those
civil rights movement
that group.
And all that, right?
Youth. Everybody that had been outside of this so-called establishment were seeking their places.
Yeah.
And finding them.
That's amazing times. It seems like a zeitgeist of so many different Russian colors and all these kinds of things that have to shake out and form something.
Yes,
that's the best. But where did
you have a excuse me, Mike? You have a strong focus on music.
Oh yeah.
I mean, look at Bob Dylan's music, Bob Dylan's poetry, his expression, and the other folk singers.
Yeah.
Talking about.
Joni
Mitchell. Joan Baez.
Yeah. The Beatles still putting out records.
The Beatles.
In 68, Beach Boys.
Absolutely.
Zeppelin was about to start. 69 is kind of when they dropped that first record. But a lot of great things happening,
And a lot of expression of dissent and finding one's place in the madness.
Did you, emerging from the ashes of college, did you think you had a better sense of identity at that point? That you knew kind of what your place was more?
Good question.
Or was it just the same kind of, I'm still feeling it out. I still got to figure out where I am.
I think it's been a progression all the way along, and it's still here right now.
Yeah.
As I listen to you, I'm learning about your experience and your perspective and your wisdom, and I'm incorporating that at this very moment, into this ongoing ensemble.
This class of life, right?
Yes, indeed. So, having gone to university was a good crucible for me.
Yeah.
And having been a competitive wrestler, I learned a lot about myself there. I learned what I could do and what I couldn't do.
Sure. Your physical limitations, right?
Absolutely.
I mean,
physical as well as interior.
Really?
Because when you go out there, you have to screw up your courage and face that other person.
They could wipe the floor with you.
Yes.
You know? I mean, I don't know that I could ever do that. Competitive sports like that.
Of course you could.
Well, I suppose I could do it. I don't know that I would do it well. How about that?
I'm not sure I did it well either. I won the majority, way 99% of my matches.
Wow.
But it was more about the experience for me than winning.
Yeah.
And it was more about, again, learning about myself through it. And I also wanted to have my own style of wrestling.
Interesting.
It's like Muhammad Ali really defined himself with this extraordinarily fresh and different style that
very
wowed the world. Of course, I would not want to pretend that I was a Muhammad Ali of
no,
wrestling.
But it is a fair comparison in the sense that finding your own style in anything and finding your own perspective in anything is an important thing.
Yes.
And, you know, I love this industry is just laced with brilliant personalities and brilliant experiences. And
fascinating people.
Absolutely. And I know one that we're going to have to talk more because we have to. There's so much more. But
I'm coming back to find out about your Sotol.
We'll go take a trip
your spirit.
to West Texas. We'll see what we could come up with. We just went out there last weekend, actually, and we found a little piece of land. And it's Sotol country, man. There's no agave growing out there in Bernie, Texas, outside of San Antonio. It's strange.
I've got to see the country, your distillery, and try your spirit.
Sure. Yeah, we'll absolutely have to do it.
Thank you.
Yeah, but so we still got some time. We still want to chat.
Okay, you've got your eye on the clock because
I do. Yeah,
we're gonna get Carlos Camarena in here, and this man has stories to tell.
Stories, right? So, I think that the next conversation we have, I'm thinking about it already in terms of chapters.
Okay, good.
That'll be kind of the
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I think that's how this works. So, when did love enter your life? Did you see yourself doing the marriage thing, being a father?
Very early on, I became a father, and that was like when I was 21, when I was a school teacher. Mm-hmm. And it feels like I've been a father all my life, and it's so I've opened all those restaurants, I think 18 restaurants in these 40 years in the 6 lands. So the last country was Australia with a very dear friend of mine, Phil Bailey. He and I opened like 16 or 17 restaurants together. And so I forgot my train of thought.
Oh, that's right. So
bring me back.
Yeah, so you said you've been a father what feels like your whole
thank
life.
you.
Yeah.
So I feel like I've accomplished a lot in my professional life.
Right.
Having had a number of restaurants,
success.
Worked with a number of fascinating people from countries all over the world, mm-hmm. in countries all over Europe. And it is my personal life of being a father of 4 sons that is one of the things that I'm most proud of, and I remain most attached to currently, today, at this very moment.
Because it's your professional life, that's a thing that, of course, there are bouts of love and there are bouts of passion in it.
Absolutely.
But it's serpentine. It's up and down.
Yes.
And, to kind of bring it back, it's again, an interesting place because fatherhood, that's something that will always give back and you'll always enjoy that. You don't need to change your careers, right? Like, at this point, I doubt you're thinking, well, I'd like to have a daughter now. It's it's a little bit like, you've got these things. You got 4 sons, you said.
Yes.
And it's amazing again because this is a transitional period right now. And you'd mentioned that no one works full time for Ocho, but
yes.
But I suppose you've had the success professionally. This will be the next chapter for you to dedicate your professional life to the tequila. I know that you're going to always be probably writing. You'll always be engaging and speaking with people, and I think that'll be a piece of you, as it seems so inherent to your nature. But I also feel like maybe this is the time you're going to be all in the tequila.
Interesting question. It is that it will be easier and clearer for me to do much less or almost nothing with the restaurants and much, much more with the tequila. So it's a sliding scale. I'm sliding off of my headspace, my attention, my thoughts, my concerns about the restaurants, and much more onto the tequila business, which has its place within the whole agave spirits world, even including something like Sotol, which is
part
not
of that conversation. For sure.
Sotol, which is not specifically and academically and technically an agave spirit, an agave or an agave spirit, but doesn't matter. It's it's an absolutely fantastic, wonderful expression of nature, what nature gives us with this wild Sotol or spoon plant. So, yes, I think life is, for me, all about remaining fascinated, remaining stimulated, and I know quite well that the most magnetic and attractive things now are having to do with agave spirits, tequila Ocho, my relationship with Carlos Camarena, who's this crazy man. He's this crazy genius.
Mad scientist, right?
Oh, mad scientist. And in between the two of us, we have so much fun and so much fascination doing things, breaking out of the envelope and breaking out of the box.
Yeah.
And so that I find very attractive.
It's an amazing place to go. It's boundless.
Exactly. It is. And I can't wait again to see what you've been doing, because I know I'm going to get more turned on and more excited about what I'm doing, and the likelihood that I'll find something in pages of your book to bring into mine is something I'm really quite excited about.
Potential. Again, there's no ceiling to this. There's so many undiscovered territories. It is, in a sense, the Wild West in terms of North American agave, and that is a whole other conversation, an academic one at points. But is it hard to? I doubt that hard is probably the right word for it. But do you feel any sense of loss or kind of mourning? Oh, that's a strong word. Transitioning out of the restaurant side of things.
Yes. I have I'm not sure even how many restaurants I've had of my own, because some of the ones that I designed, conceived, and opened were for other people, or they were franchises. But of the probably 10 that have been mine, I now have 3 in London and 1 in Paris. So I've sold and closed. For instance, Australia with Phil Bailey. We lost our lease in Sydney, Australia, and there was a small death there when we closed it. And it was sad. Yeah. The passing of that, the knowing that I wouldn't have this link with Phil, my dear friend, and we wouldn't be able to express ourselves to not only the Sydney, Australia public, but people pass through there.
Yeah.
Who loved and enjoyed the ambience, the food, and of course the tequila. Mm-hmm. So, yes, there is this death, this closing,
sad,
this passing.
Kind of? I mean...
it's sad. And what I'm doing is focusing, instead of what is finishing, on what is starting.
Right.
And what is continuing.
Yeah.
The new horizons.
Opportunity.
The opportunity, well said.
Well, it is. I mean, we're just out of spring, but it probably corresponded quite largely to spring and things being reborn.
Yes.
Things taking a new turn, a new season. Just looking around that corner. I mean, it's an amazing thing. And Tomas, I mean, I talk to a lot of people, and I love people. People are my favorite thing. They've got so many different stories.
Thanks for turning that love to me, too. It feels very good to be with you. Thank you.
Likewise. This is a brilliant moment for me. And even if it is, 8:40 in the morning, which isn't too bad. We both got some coffee and kind of enjoyed that.
Yes.
We have to do this. We have to do this again. We have to talk like that.
I'm so for it.
I hope so.
We'll do it as soon as we can.
There's so much left to say. There's so much left to talk about. But let's keep you and I, our palates piqued and interested, and we will talk more and learn more about each other and for the listeners as well.
This is the perfect point at which to pause. It's the perfect time to leave a party when the party is going at its peak, and we really would rather stay. So
that's right. Tomas, it's been amazing.
Thank you
will
so
do
much.
This again, and
thank you, Mike.
I promise you. So thank you.
I look forward to it.
Me too.
And thanks for doing this.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Good.
So kind of a gift to myself and homage to life itself. My first chat with Tomas Estes, didn't know him all that well and have been privileged to spend more time with him. And I'll bring the more in-depth and kind of the more romantic side, perhaps, of Tomas this Thursday. So I hope you guys enjoyed getting to know Tomas. It's a special feeling to be in a room with him and hear him talk about what an amazing life he has led, and really, as a pioneer in the tequila industry, what kinds of things he's done about agave and educating us on how you connect with these spirits. It's always poetic talking to Tomas about life and tequila. So thanks everybody for listening to Show to V with Mike G. No matter if you think that last night's halftime show with Lady Gaga was the best ever, or if you're really wanting to look for another boxing biopic to watch, please keep dancing.